Okay, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is now facing his biggest test yet with next week's first GOP primary debate that's going to happen on Wednesday night. But the press is catching wind of his ally strategy. The New York Times obtaining memos giving advice to DeSantis, posted online by a firm tied to DeSantis' super PAC. It tells the Florida governor to attack President Biden and the media no less than 3 to 5 times, state DeSantis' positive vision, hammer Vivek Ramaswamy, and defend President Trump in response to Chris Christie's attacks. Let's bring in Steve Krakauer, journalist and media critic, to break this all down for us. He's also the author of the book Uncovered: How the Media Got Cozy with Power, Abandoned Its Principles, and Lost the People. Okay, Steve, so it's not unusual to see outside groups post info like polling documents or strategy to some obscure corner of the internet, right, to avoid breaking the law of super PACs strategizing, with campaigns in private. But we didn't see that here. I mean, this was totally out in the open for everybody to see.
Yeah, it's always awkward when you see these things, right? I mean, on some level, you look at those points, and some of it just seems a little bit strange, right? Attack the media and Biden 3 to 5 times. Well, what about 6 times? Is that too many times attacking the media?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a little bit, but on the whole, it actually makes a lot of sense, I think. You know, attack Vivek Ramaswamy, try to establish yourself as the number 2. Don't go firing at Donald Trump when he's not even there in the building. So I think it actually makes sense, but it is awkward to see it laid out that way. But it does show, as you mentioned, the true stakes of this debate. I mean, this is enormous for everyone on that stage, but particularly Ron DeSantis. This is his huge moment to really get rid of the rest of the field when it comes to who's number 2. And he's got to do that in a way that I think he has to know the media is not looking for a narrative out of this that's Ron DeSantis won. That's the boring narrative. I don't think he can really win the debate, but he can lose. He can have a terrible debate, and the main narrative, the chomping at the bit from the corporate media, is going to be Ron DeSantis. Is he in trouble again? So he needs to make sure he just doesn't lose. He needs to do well, but not try to go out for the knockout punch, particularly of Trump in this particular situation.
And to win, I know you just kind of listed off the 4. There were 4 main pillars there in these documents. I don't even know if we want to say leaked. I mean, it was posted so blatantly, but it did list those 4 pillars that you just listed. If he follows that blueprint, does he do well on Wednesday night?
I think it's still, you can only put so much in writing. You have to actually see it, and you have to actually deliver it. And one of the criticisms of Ron DeSantis is sometimes the substance is there, but there's some style criticisms also. So I don't think it's as easy as simply following it. He has to deliver it in a way that feels authentic and normal and connects with the viewer and the voter, because I've been following what's been going on in this GOP race for a while. You have, but most of America has not. This is really the first time they're going to be tuning in, getting to know these 8 people or 7 people that are going to be on that stage on Wednesday. So he has to show himself in a way to this audience that it comes across as authentic. He can't be listing these 4 pillars and doing them. He has to actually just incorporate that into what he does. And if he does that, I don't think he wins. Like I said, I don't think it's possible for Ron DeSantis wins to be the headline out of this debate. But as long as he avoids the major mistakes, as long as he kind of continues to do pretty well, I think that's a win for his campaign.
Yeah, and if he does follow this, kind of word for word, he's going to take a sledgehammer to Vivek Ramaswamy. And whether or not President Trump is physically there in Milwaukee, he will still very much be on that stage, right? I mean, he will be a point of discussion for everybody there. Do you think Wednesday night will actually be beneficial for the American people to tune into, though? Or is it just going to be all of these candidates attacking one another and no actual substance or policy?
Yeah, in some ways, having Donald Trump not there, and I will say there's reports that he's considering going. They'll have a podium there if he's going to be there, but it's very, very unlikely that Donald Trump will be on that stage. And I think that actually works, to be honest, to the benefit of the American people. In this particular case, you've got the ability to, Donald Trump's name will be mentioned a lot. It will be mentioned, maybe the indictments, although I don't think we'll spend a lot of time on the indictments. But certainly, how was the Donald Trump first term? Where was he wrong on immigration, or where was he wrong on COVID? So I think he'll be mentioned. But I do think that not having him on the stage allows for more substance, allows for the policy issues that affect Americans to go real center stage. And yes, the candidates will be attacking each other. There'll be a lot of that. But I do think that it's going to be valuable for the American public to start to understand who these people are, where they differ, and who they might like as the alternative to Donald Trump.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.